Hello and welcome to Save Your Sanity. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. And as usual, tonight we're going to have a very important topic. Many of us have heard about gaslighting. It's very common for people to understand that gaslighting exists when you're in a relationship with a hijackal. But it is sneaky emotional abuse. So I wanted to take it apart and give you examples of 10 different ways that it shows up. They're all underhanded, of course, because gaslighting is underhanded, and it's a way of endeavoring to control you and define your reality for you, even though it's unwelcome, you didn't ask for it, and you certainly don't want it when you do receive it. So I wanted to give you some ways to really see these various kinds of gaslighting, things that fall into that category, so you understand deeply how that is affecting you, and they're very specifically and more in alignment. So, if you're enjoying and finding value from what I do here, I hope that you will come and join me over on forrelationshiphelp.com. Everything's over there for you. You can find my podcast. You can find my YouTube channel. You can find my blog. You can find my products. All of that is there for you. And if you're getting value from this podcast, I hope that you'll consider donating at patreon.com/saveyoursanity. That's a way to make sure that this information stays available to you and to all the other people in the world who really need to hear it. You might be interested to know that Save Your Sanity podcast has now listeners in 91 countries. So believe me, you're not alone when you're experiencing emotional abuse. And the more people that hear this, that get some clarity, the more people can have a life that is healthier and safer, free of anxiety. And that's what I really want to help you with. So when you go to patreon.com/saveyoursanity, you can make a one-time donation or a monthly donation, $5, $10, whatever it is that suits your budget or your currency. So I hope you'll do that. And if you ever want to talk to me directly, it's really easy. My new client offer is at beaclient.com. So you can always remember that, beaclient.com. So let's talk about this very important topic, gaslighting. It is sneaky. It is emotionally abusive. And it happens frequently, really frequently, when you're in a relationship with a hijackal. Now remember, I created the term hijackal because too many people, in my opinion, were going off to Dr. Google and saying, what's up here? And they were getting clinical diagnostic terms. Excuse me, like narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, borderline, and it was just inappropriate. So I wanted us to have a term we could all use. No need to have a PhD in psychology like I have. A term we could all use to define the patterns, traits, and cycles. So hijackals are people who hijack relationships for their own purposes and then relentlessly scavenge them for power, for status, and control. So if that sounds like somebody in your life, you're really going to want to know about this. And I want to share my definition of emotional abuse with you so that you can remember it and remember how it fits when we're talking about gaslighting. So it's really important to understand the aspects of emotional abuse, and what I endeavor to do is to break that down for you every podcast. So emotional abuse is about controlling another person by criticizing, embarrassing, humiliating, shaming, blaming, discounting, dismissing, depriving, or denying their rights, their needs, their wants, thoughts, feelings, and equality in the relationship. All of those things are part of what emotional abuse is. So let's talk about gaslighting. Gaslighting generally is, as I said a minute ago, when somebody else wants to tell you what your reality is, what you remember, what you feel, what you think, what you want, what you need, what you prefer, what your plans are, who you are. They want to take control of your identity, and they do it in a broad sense by what we call gaslighting. So the number one way that they do it, very underhanded, of course, is lying. They just straight up lie about things. And I was talking with a client just a few days ago who said that she wondered because every time she asked her partner a question, he took a few minutes, it seemed minutes, I'm sure it was seconds, but he took a little while to answer. And I said to her, did his eyes go in any direction while he was looking for the answer? And she said, yes. He would squint and he would do all kinds of things with his face. And I thought, yeah, he's trying to remember what he said before. And he's trying to figure out what to say so that he can get what he wants. And she said, you know, I think that's absolutely right. That is what he does. And he does it every time. He just can't seem to give me a straight answer right out of the gate. He has to screw up his face and think about it. Well, think about the hijackal in your life. Whether that's your parent, your partner, your sibling, your adult child, do they lie to you? Have they lied to you? Do you know when they lie to you? Because that's what they do. You know, hijackals have to win in every moment. And that's really something to remember. The hijackal has to win in the moment in order to feel like they're on top of it, that they're in control, that they're directing things. So they're going to lie to make sure that they win in the moment. That's why they will tell you one thing to win at one time, and they'll tell you the opposite to win at another time. And then when you say to them, but you told me a little while ago it was this, they tell you, you don't listen very well. You don't pay attention. Or I have the right to change my mind. You know, but they don't take responsibility for it. Now, I've done episodes on pathological lying, but lying, something that hijackals do, whether it's pathological or not. You know, pathological liars seem to have to lie. They just have no acquaintance with the truth at all. But hijackals are more devious, so they lie in order to get their needs met. Many narcissists that can be diagnosed are pathological liars. So the two things really do go together. And so lying, it's about small, dumb stuff, too. It's not big, monumental things, but often about just small, dumb stuff. And yes, of course, they may lie about past relationships or their family history or their job history, but they will lie. And so that's a big way that they will gaslight you because they're not telling the truth, so you don't have a sense of what reality really is. Now, number two is a little bit like that because they are the masters of what I call the plausible lie. And I've talked about that in another episode. It's when they give you just enough to have you say, well, that could be the truth. So it's a plausible lie. And they hope that you will err in favor of deciding it's the truth, even though it's only kind of the sketchy truth. And that gets clear, right? So there's a piece that goes with that sketchy truth. And it's what I call weaponized ambiguity. And that's big words that are shorthand for they will not give you a specific answer so that they can use it as a weapon. Like, I said I might like to go there sometime. I didn't say I was going to go there in the next 15 minutes or 15 years. So there is this weaponized ambiguity. They never nail it down. They never say exactly what's so, but they kind of give you the impression that what you want is what's going to happen. And so it's a way of gaslighting you because they know they're not making a commitment. Even if they made a commitment, they'd probably change it. But they know they're not making a commitment. They know they're not securing anything down. And they know that you're believing that they are. And so that second one is the plausible lie. And weaponized ambiguity. And that ambiguity can be like, very, that might be nice kind of thing, or maybe one day, those kind of things that have no time or date or anything attached to them, so they can't be nailed down for it. And it gets really cloudy in there, really cloudy. And that's a form of gaslighting. So they give you the impression one thing is going to happen while they didn't commit to it and have no intention of doing it. Now, another kind of gaslighting is shifting the story when they tell it. Like, you were both there. You both experienced the same thing, and yet you see it differently. And of course, that's not uncommon. People pay attention to different things. But when they tell the story, it sort of drifts 10, 15 degrees from what actually happened. And the next time they tell it, it drifts 17 to 24 degrees from what actually happened. And this is gaslighting. It is, how far can I drift from the truth before you won't let me get away with it? Now, obviously, they love to do this in front of people because they think they'll get away with it even more. And that is often the truth, because you don't want to tell the partner that they're wrong right in front of them, and you don't want them to rage in front of other people. So they try it usually where there are other people present, but they'll try it with you. They will tell the story and you will think, oh, I know this person. If I correct them, we're going to get into a bit of a wrangle. And if I don't correct them, I'm going to feel like they're not really telling the truth. But in order to save the peace, they know that you will probably not correct them. And then should you say something later about it, they will say, well, no, I told that story many, many times and you've never said anything. So what's wrong with you? So they shift the story when they tell it, and they expect you to give them that wiggle room, that few degrees to be off the truth that you both experienced, and that you'll have the plausible lie that, well, maybe they experienced it differently than I do. Because one of the things that's true about people who are with hijackals, aside from when it's their parents, is that they're usually people who are quite willing to have some wiggle room, some compromise, some collaboration, some space. And so they don't refute every last thing, every last detail. They're not looking to make people wrong. But hijackals are. They want to make other people wrong. So they have that little smirk on their face, the hijackal smirk, as I call it in one of our episodes, that is really contempt for you. It's just contemptuous, like, I can get away with this. Just watch me. So they will shift the story when they tell it. Now, number 4 is the reverse. They will not allow you to shift the story when you tell it. They will tell you, you are wrong. You are wrong. And so they are gaslighting you that your memories, your recollection, or even your thoughts or feelings about something are wrong. You're not allowed to have them. So they're gaslighting you. They are telling you this is what really happened, and you know deep in your mind and your heart that's not what happened. And then you start second-guessing yourself and questioning your sanity, and they go, yay, gotcha! Now you are second-guessing yourself. This is great. I got you on the run. This is what they like to do. This is gaslighting. And you can clearly see why it is emotional abuse, because they are pushing you further and further from your ability to step up and your willingness to say, no, that's not the way I remember it. And I've talked in other episodes about how to respond, and I have a video on my YouTube channel for relationship help. So youtube.com/forrelationship-help called Healthy Responses to Gaslighting. And I put it in the notes below, but you can go and find that too when you want to know how to refute some of these things, or how to respond at least to some of these things about gaslighting. So we've got the Lying and the plausible lie, they change the story and hope you won't catch them on it. They won't let you change the story. And even if you tell the accurate story, they will tell you that you are wrong, that your version of the story does not hold water. And then there you are, your head is spinning and all of these things, they are red flags about the relationship. And we want to be very clear that we whip off our rose-colored glasses so that we can see red flags. When you try to make life rosy with your rosy-colored glasses on, you don't see the red flags. You justify and rationalize and make excuses for it. So therefore, you're enabling the behavior without even recognizing. So it's very important to recognize that these things are gaslighting. So number 5 is that thing that I did an episode on a while back called blame shifting. So when you want to speak to them about something that's problematic for you or an issue or even make a decision, and you come to them really openly and you say, it would really help me a lot if you did or didn't do this anymore. And they immediately whip it around and make it your fault. And they immediately start blaming you, but with about 10 times more energy. Is that familiar to you? That's a kind of gaslighting. It's really important to be with that. Really important to be with that. I was reading an article from partnerhope.com written by Michelle Mays, and she used this example in the blame shifting. She said, say you're in a restaurant and your husband is flirting with a waitress, and you express very politely, just say, it makes me a little uncomfortable when you're flirting with the waitress. And he said, I'm not flirting with the waitress. I don't, why would I do that? I'm not flirting with the waitress. So you say, well, it feels that way to me. And what happens? Immediately they start saying, well, you're so sexually repressed that, if I didn't have that to contend with, I wouldn't be flirting with the waitress. And I'm not really flirting with the waitress anyway, because you're paranoid. And then I'm really worried about you. I don't think you're mentally well. I think you have emotional problems. And then now we get into the trauma bonding, because he's just said all these bad things about you. And this is a case of a he example, but it equally the same way when it's a she. Just said all these bad things about you. And then what do? They want to swoop in and be your hero or heroine and then say, oh, but I understand you. I got you. Yeah, okay. And that's how the trauma bond grows. Because first of all, they're blaming you, and then they sweep in to be your hero and be understanding. And so you're trauma bonded to the person who's hurting you. And that's a sad and sorry state of affairs. But we need to see it really clearly before we can say anything or do anything about it. So this blame shifting, I'm sure you've had examples of that when you just bring up something innocuous, like you promised to take out the garbage and you missed the delivery this morning. Well, I have more important things to do. You're the one who's concerned about the garbage. Why aren't you taking it out? It was a request, or it was a suggestion to the hijackal, but they're not having any of that. So they turn it around, and now all of a sudden it's blame on you. So they shift the blame that belongs to them and shift it onto you. And that's a form of gaslighting, because you didn't do anything. You weren't the one who didn't take out the garbage. And probably when you said to that person, will you take out the garbage tomorrow? It's garbage day. Can you have it out by 10:30? And you were even very, very specific. Have it out by 10:30. They probably said, yeah, sure. Okay. Because they didn't want you on their back. That's a passive-aggressive response. Sure, I'll do it. They have no intention of doing it, but they say they'll do it. Then when you call them on it, then it's your fault for calling them on it. And you shouldn't have asked them in the first place. What do you think they are? Your housekeeper? All the kinds of things that they will say. And so this falls under the category of gaslighting. And it's important to recognize. So we've got 5 things: the lying, the plausible lying and the weaponized ambiguity. They're shifting a story as they tell it to their point of view. They're making you wrong when you tell a story and saying that you don't remember correctly. And then they blame shift. As if that's not enough, there are 5 more. So let's look at those. They, as I said at the beginning, they want to define your reality for you. So they come at you and attack your sense of reality rather than lie about their own. And so if they can get you on the run, second guessing yourself, questioning your sanity, wondering if you can trust your senses or your judgment, then that starts to erode your mental health. As soon as your head starts spinning and you start questioning yourself, did I remember that correctly? Did I ask? Maybe I forgot to ask. I'm sure I said it out loud. I didn't just say that in my head, did I? All those kind of things start building up in there. And so it erodes your mental health, your sense of mental well-being, maybe even your physical sense of well-being. But it will also erode your self-confidence and your self-esteem, because you start questioning yourself and you start wondering, am I as together as I hoped I was? And you start believing somebody who generally you can't believe. But you start believing them because they caught you in this strange place emotionally. So they start seeing this attack on your sense of reality. And they will go after you and go after you and go after you. The whole term of gaslighting came back from a movie in the 40s where Cary Grant would move objects in the house and his partner would say, I'm sure that moved. No, dear, it didn't move. It's always been there, but that's okay. You're unwell. And that's where the whole thing started, where we got this name for it. And so here we have it, the attack on your reality. And really get you on the run in terms of this mental well-being, emotional well-being, and of course, second-guessing your sanity. And that's a big, big deal. So if these things are sounding familiar to you, I hope you're taking note of them, because it's really important to be able to recognize these things straightforwardly, in an easy, quick fashion that you can find them. And, if you ever need my help, you know that you can find me at beaclient.com. I offer a new client full 1 hour session with me there at beaclient.com. Wherever you are in the world, I've had clients from so many corners of the world, and I'd love to talk to you too. So we've got 6. Now, number 7, this is big, because it's like having a hammer. It's almost like water torture. That would be an even better way to describe it. It is that constant blaming and finding fault with you. Not only do their issues get turned on you and made to be your fault, but they find fault with you all the time. And when they're not happy in the world, just generally not happy, maybe something didn't go right at work, maybe they got drenched in the rain, maybe their golf game was called off, maybe they couldn't go shopping with a friend, whatever it is, somehow it turns out to be your fault. Have you noticed that? Somehow, even though there's no logic in it, it turns out to be your fault. And so you become a scapegoat. And I want to read you the dictionary definition of a scapegoat. It's the art or practice of assigning blame or failure to another to deflect attention or responsibility away from oneself. So making you into a scapegoat, making you the person that we dump all the negativity on, making you the person who's always wrong, the person who has big problems. That's scapegoating. So I'll read it again. The act or practice of assigning blame or failure to another person so to deflect attention or responsibility away from oneself. So if I'm very busy blaming you, then I'm just fine. I'm good. So that's what they do. They get you on the run and they keep blaming you. And hijackals blame their partner even when the hijackal cheats. Have you noticed that? That they may have cheated and you're feeling very betrayed, and then they say, well, I wouldn't have cheated if you were more sexually available, or if you were kinder, or if you didn't have so many requests and demands. Somehow they blame shift and get their cheating to be your fault. And that's that whole piece of scapegoating as a form of gaslighting. It's mind-boggling, really. I mean, how can that happen? And it twists you and turns you and warps you, and you think, what am I experiencing here? But it is that shift that somehow you become responsible for their poor behavior choices. And you know that's part of my definition of enabling, so you don't want to be doing that. So now we've got 7. So number 8 is pouring on the charm. Okay, everybody just went, oh yeah. Pouring on the charm, because when they're doing that, they want to cover things up. They are the kings and queens of seduction when they want something, aren't they? You know, if they think you're not going to give them what they want, all of a sudden they're love bombing you. They're back to being all lovey-dovey. Maybe they bring you the perfect flowers that you like, or they take you to a place you like to go for dinner. They're all in your corner when they want something. And they are just pouring on the charm. It'll be withdrawn as soon as they get what they want, or if they run up against a dead end, they don't get what they want, then they'll be angry. And they will withdraw all of the charm and add some nastiness and harm to the charm. So that happens. One of the things that I find too, I've been doing this work for a very long time, and one of the things that I know is that when a couple comes in and one person is a hijackal, that hijackal shows themselves really quickly because they're endeavoring to charm me, to seduce them to their way of thinking, to show me examples of how they're so understanding about their partner, and their partner is always so wrong in their estimation. And so they're pouring on the charm, thinking that they're going to get me over to their way of thinking so together we can take the other one down. And that is like, oh, big neon light flash of, oh, could be a hijackal here. That's what goes on in my mind when I start watching that. And so it's important for us to recognize that when they pour on the charm, you want to get a little suspicious. And if you haven't had any charm from them for a while, you might think, oh, heavens, yes, pour on the charm. But I hope that you will have a turn of mind now and say, I can feel the charm pouring. What do they want? What's really going on here? And that will help you regain your sanity and keep your equilibrium so you won't get hoovered down that pathway and they get what they want and you end up feeling like, oh, it happened again. I got taken. So that's a really important piece. Now, number 9. And there are 10 ways, very underhanded ways, that it shows up, this gaslighting business. Number 9 is bullying. They may ask in a decent fashion for what they want. They may say in a decent manner what it is they have to say. But one hint of them not getting it, and all of a sudden there's pressure. There's pressure to agree with them. There's pressure and invitation maybe to agree with them. And if you hold your own and you don't agree with them, then you're going to be absolutely bullied. And they're going to be belittling you, demeaning you, discounting you, dismissing you, making demands. And then that, what they think is the iron hammer, is the silent treatment. Well, I just won't speak to you. I will withhold my presence from you, you poor mortal. And at that moment, I always tell my clients, when they do the silent treatment, rejoice. It's going to be quiet. You don't have to listen to them for a while. When you are not affected by their silent treatment, they don't know what to do. You just go about your business. You sing, hum, do whatever you're doing in the way that you would do it if they weren't there. it just rattles their cage something ferocious, because they want you to plead, they want you to beg, they want you to ask, they want you to insinuate, they want you to offer, they want you to do anything to cater to them. But if they don't get what they want, they're going to be bullying. There's going to be name-calling involved. I had a client not long ago who was visiting her significant other, and she called in another state, and she called me and said, you know, he did this, he did something physical. He was very, very angry. And I said, I really encourage you to pack your bags and be ready to leave on a moment's notice, because that behavior that he is demonstrating, the next behavior is pinning you against the wall. The next behavior after that is choking you. I got a call from her the next day. She said, thank you for telling me to pack my bags. He did pin me against the wall, and he did choke me, and I've left. So pressure, do it my way, think my way, do what I ask you, do what I tell you, show up the way I want you to. And so we get that bullying, and that's gaslighting, because it's saying, do it my way, change your reality to match mine, and it's constant. And if you give into it, there's less and less of you and more of them in the relationship. And that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good at all in any form. It really doesn't. So number 9 is bullying. And now we come to the big last number 10, which is manipulation. And manipulation is a combination of lying and blaming and fault-finding and bullying and dismissing and demeaning and degrading, because in them they're thinking, I can get this person to do anything I want. Just watch me. Watch how I turn the words around. Watch how I turn the story around. Watch how I blame shift. Watch how I find fault so they feel diminished. And so it's manipulate. Remember again, hijackals always have to win. So they always have to come to the top of the pile. So if you even make a great case, they have to jump ahead of you to repress you, suppress you, and eventually depress you too in many cases. So this manipulation is really a big deal. And it's kind of a little bit of all of the 9 that I've talked about. And this is how they gaslight you. This is how they tell you who you are. And beware of a person, any person, I don't care if it's your mother or your father, beware of any person who says to you, I know you better than you know yourself. Whoa, big red flag, right? I know you better than you know yourself. No, they do not, nor should they pretend that they do, or think that they do, or think you're going to buy that they do. So you are going to come into a more fullness of yourself and say, no, that is not the case. You know, I'm just writing a new book right now. It's called Emerging Empowered, Breaking the Bonds of Emotional Abuse. It's going to have this wonderful personal study program that you can do online over time. And it's really important in breaking the bonds of emotional abuse to recognize that you need to empower yourself. And I'm going to give you the tools to do that in the book. But of course, I've already given you many of them in the podcast and on the YouTube channel. So you can always search the YouTube channel and the podcast for topics that may be happening in your life right now. But this gaslighting business is huge. It is really difficult. It's kind of like vaporware. It's hard to pin down sometimes because you want to believe the other person and you want to think well of them because usually you're the healthier person. And then you give them too much and you give them an inch, they take 24 miles. These are not the people who just take 1. So it's really important to understand gaslighting. And if this is familiar to you, I'm always here to help you at beaclient.com. But make sure to go to the YouTube channel for relationship help. And watch the video on healthy responses to gaslighting. That will help you. And while you're there, subscribe and hit the notification button, and then you'll know every time I put up a new YouTube video. But also subscribe to the podcast so that you know when that happens as well. And one good way to subscribe to the podcast is to go to forrelationshiphelp.com and click on podcast Save Your Sanity, and in the top right corner there is a subscribe button. Again, you can go to patreon.com/saveyoursanity, and you can make a donation and make sure that this is here for people all over the world. It's really important to start playing on your own team. It's super important to start seeing what they're doing rather than feeling what you're feeling only. You need to be observing them. You need to be watching them to catch what's going on. So I hope that tonight and this episode has been useful to you in understanding what gaslighting is and how it may be occurring in your relationship. And until we speak again, I hope you will take this to heart and start treating yourself very, very well, because you matter. Talk soon. Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and so many comments. I'm delighted. Let's have a look at these. Where do we come from? All right, love from Albuquerque. Well, love back to Albuquerque. Oh, she says, that's funny when they screw up their face. Yeah, or they may even have a subtle eye movement. And if when you're looking at them, they look up and to their left, that means they're trying to make something up. So catch that one. Stephen says, yes, she lied like a rug. Next gal will get lie detector test at the end of 60 days. Versus 10 years. Yeah, isn't it awful to even have to consider, Stephen, that a potential partner or a present partner, you would need to have a lie detector? You know, that's a pretty big red flag right there. Why would you even pursue it, I guess, is a good question. If you think you need a lie detector test, you don't trust this person. A lie detector test really won't help you trust them anymore because the trust is already damaged. So, you know, I can certainly understand that you might want to run if you hear in the next relationship that you're sure that there's lying going on. Absolutely, because that is just gaslighting. And it sounds like you've learned from sad experience, Stephen. I'm sorry about that. Maria says, hello. And lying or omitting to disclose information, very secretive. Yes, that's what they do. They lie, and they lie by omission. What they don't tell you, what they leave out of the story, you know, very selective, and certainly helps them keep their cards closer to their chest for sure. And that's what they think they're doing. Although, after you get onto them, they're pretty transparent. Claire says, plausible lies. Sounds like a certain royal couple in an infomercial. Well, I don't know about that. But weaponized ambiguity, she says, yes, they tick that box too. Well, that's your perception, I guess. I did not listen to the interview. Claire says, Dr. Shaler, this is a very important topic, and I thank you for doing this. You're so welcome. And the subtleties of gaslighting can be confusing and discombobulating. Oh, they sure can. And bamboozling and gobsmacking, too. So there's a few things that we can use in that vernacular to talk about these things, because they are head-shakingly informing us of who they are, and you're like, who does that? You know, I have this program on my website that available, a home study program called Seeing the Cycles, and it's about the hallmarks of hijackals, and it helps you go through each of the things in a very methodical way, and you fill in the blanks online. And one of the hijackal hallmarks is this ambiguity and this incredulity. And the incredulity comes when in your head you're thinking, who does it? Who says that? And then immediately you come back, oh, well, they must have a reason. And you come up with this nice response to them. Listen to the first response. Who does that? Who says that? Because that's the red flag. If you hear people talking and you think, oh, that's despicable, that's awful, who does that? Listen to that part rather than starting to make excuses for them. Lily says, they hate being pinned down. I no longer mind calling them out. I will correct them on the spot. Well, Lily, how's that working for you? I think that sometimes my advice to not poke a hijackal is very well taken. And correcting them on the spot, if it doesn't lead to rage and violence, maybe it'll work for you, and maybe it is working for you. But it certainly will work for you internally, because you know that you're putting them on notice. You're not buying what they're selling, and finding a good way to do that. In my book, Kaizen for Couples, I share there my personal weather response strategy. That's a good communication technique for doing that if you're ready to do that. Maria said, oh, I never said that. Oh, I'm not that kind of person. Always shifting. Oh, you know me, that we are family. Oh, yes, trying to pull you in, make us together, make us a unit. Oh, no, you don't really think that. And if you're with a covert hijackal, those are the ones that are always playing the victim. Oh, I feel so badly. I thought you knew me better than that. That, of course, you just dismiss everything I say to you. Woe is me. That's the way it goes. So yes, Maria, those are familiar phrases. And Lily says, yes, it's crazy making, and they hate truth-telling. Oh, yes, they have a very nodding acquaintance with the truth. Maybe even not nodding, maybe just a sly side-eye with the truth. And they're not in any way shamed by lying. So that's a problem, really a problem. Hi, Katerina. She says, that's my ex-husband. Oh, I'm so glad to hear the ex in front of husband then for you. Stella, hi. She says, thank you for another informative podcast. The hijackal lied so much. He was on a dating site on my laptop. His story was he was hacked. This is one of hundreds of lies. Yes, I had my husband, he actually had the gall to say, when I found that he was going on to gay porn sites, he had the gall to say that somebody must have stolen his credit card. Now, it was put in at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is what he used to do, get up and be on the computer all day. Somebody else must have stolen my credit card. Someone must have hacked my computer. Really, in the middle of the night, in the room next door to the bedroom, that happened? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You think I lost my mind? What are you talking to me about? So I understand that one for sure. Stella, that's very, very common, because getting caught is the worst of all things for them. Ekaterina said, when he was rude and selfish, he said, oh, it's nothing. It cannot hurt. It is emotions. It's not drunken driver or criminal who can hurt you. Oh, now there are degrees of bad behavior, are there? So I lie to you, or I am rude, or I am selfish, and I say, but, I could be worse. Are you kidding? I don't want worse. I don't want what I'm getting right now. So what do you mean I could be worse? I'm talking about this is unacceptable to me right now. So I am so, Katerina said, or Lily added another one, if you weren't so jealous. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, right? If you weren't so jealous, I wouldn't have to sneak around. If you weren't so jealous, I'd be more comfortable. If you weren't so jealous, I wouldn't have to, whatever. So yes, it's another wonderful example, Lily. As Stella said, the hijackal always said his anger was caused by me. Yeah. And he was reacting back to the way he was treated. I think this is blame shifting, you say, and I say, yes, it is blame shifting. That you are responsible for every bad thing he ever did. And that's the way that rolls. And I'll say it again, we're having a lot of examples of men as hijackals. There are equal number of women as hijackals. Don't ever be mistaken. They show up, they present a little differently, but there are equal numbers. So know that for sure. Lily says, like someone hugging you after they abused you. Yes, that's trauma bonding material. And watch for that. They want to be your savior after they've hurt you. They want to be the one who understands after they've demonstrated no understanding. Don't fall for it. Tell them, don't touch me. Leave me alone. And walk away. Really important. Maria says, blame shifting when you hold them accountable for the one-sided relationship, and then they turn around to blame you for being too sensitive, having too high standards, play the victim and how hard life is for them. Yes, masters at doing that. You've got that one nailed, Maria. That's exactly what they do. And it is crazy-making behavior. But once you see it, isn't it wonderful? Once you see it, and you go, there it goes again. And they think I'm not noticing. And you are then empowering yourself and building yourself to say, I got your number, buddy, or I've got your number, baby, and I see what you're doing. I'm not going to call you on it. I am just observing it and making a decision within myself that this is not going to work for me. I don't want to be around this. I don't want to be with you. But you don't have those conversations with them. You have them with me or with your girlfriend or somewhere where you're going to make decisions. And that's what you need to do. Woman clothed in the sun. She says they turn into mean girls. Yeah, they started out as mean girls, actually. But they turn into meaner ones the older they get. And that's kind of sad. And I don't think there's anything more sad to not leave in time and then have a hijackal get dementia. Because there you are feeling super trapped. So always consider, is this okay with you, what's going on right now? Now, yes, there are lots of factors about whether you should leave and when you should leave and all. And you know that I am clear about saying if there's physical or sexual abuse, report it to the police and go to the hospital. But if there isn't, let's get empowered before you leave so that you are leaving in great shape because you want to move on to your new life fully empowered, emerging empowered. That's why the name of the book is that. And Lily said, I don't let crazy people define my reality. High five, Lily. Absolutely don't let people define your reality who want to take you over. Absolutely not. Maria said, another example of gaslighting is when they say, I thought I told you. Yeah, yes. And then it's your fault because you don't remember, right? Yeah, that's the way it goes for sure. A woman says, you look lovely, your hair is growing fast. Yes, it certainly is. Look how much of it is. Thanks, COVID. But I do like having long hair, so thank you for that compliment. Lily says they're malcontents. Yes, they are, because they're always jumping on hot coals. And are they buying what I'm selling? How am I doing? Do I have control yet? Can I put on more pressure? Do they understand I'm manipulating them? And they want to stay on top of that. So they are constantly malcontent. And they carry their shame away. I wish they would, but they tend to have many of their behaviors coming from deep shame. Don't put on your compassion hat. You didn't have anything to do with creating that in them. But they come from deep shame. They've had some experiences in their life or a parent. If you're dating someone, be sure that you look at their parents, because they're not magically going to be different. Now, maybe they've done a lot of work and had a lot of help and they are different, but always think, the parents, what are the parents like? And then notice if you don't like the way the parents behave, you are probably going to find that the potential partner behaves the same way down the road when they're no longer love bombing and making nice in the dating situation. Yes, it is yucky for sure. They blame others for their unhappiness. Well, of course, they have no fault, so how could it be their fault they're unhappy? And that's a really important point that you bring up, because you're not responsible for anyone's happiness but your own. Each person is responsible for their own happiness. There's nobody who's supposed to go around making you happy. And it's erroneous to think that, in my opinion. So once we grasp that we're responsible for our own happiness, then we stop looking for others to make us happy, and we can make better decisions. So that's important. Maria said they cannot take vacation and it's all your fault. Well, absolutely. And so is the weather and the IRS. Not, for those of you who are not in the United States, that's the taxation system. But everything will be your fault. Everything. Lily says, I love the silent treatment. Yeah, once you learn to luxuriate in the silence, like, oh, there is not that all the time. I don't have to wonder. They shut off the spigot. Now, the unfortunate thing is, as soon as they realize that it's not having a negative effect on you and you're not begging for them to talk to you, then they start talking to you. So there is that about it. But Maria says, I grew up with the silent treatment. Oh, yes, parents withholding their love from you, withholding their attention, withholding their validation. Nasty, nasty. And that will either drive you to become a hijackal or drive you to become a people pleaser. Not because you chose it, but because your young brain was malleable. And now, how do I get my needs met? How do I get my needs met? The young child is saying, who's going to feed me? Who's going to love me? Who's going to take care of me? So you start changing in order to please the other, or you start being like them and you learn to manipulate in the same way. They are oppressive, Maria. Stella says, the hijackal punched the wall when we were talking, trying to fix things. He was talking so loud and telling me to shut up. I'm glad I didn't stick around to become a punching bag. I'm glad you didn't either. When somebody has a ability to become violent, or that they're threatening to become violent. People who threaten to become violent usually do become violent. And they think they put you on notice that they were going to. So yes, you want to stay far away and be nobody's punching bag. And that means being a punching bag for words that are degrading too. Don't stick around for those. No, I'm sorry, I'm leaving the room. I will not be spoken about in that way. Be clear about it. Be kind and honest. I love that quote that I've spoken about often, and it's from The Secret of Staying in Love, and it says, the genius of good communication is to be totally kind and totally honest at the same time. I think if we all made that our goal, that's great. We can be kind and honest at the same time because we are true to ourselves. So when you speak up and you say, I'm leaving the room because I will not be spoken to in that way, then they block your passage, then, it's on. You may end up calling the police. Hijackals don't like having the police called on them. I'm sure you've noticed that. And then they will tell a whole different story when the police come. But never allow them to get to the place where they actually hit you. If they threaten, report them. It'll be a he said, she said, he said situation. But they will have been reported. And that's important. Ekaterina, waiting for the book. Me too. I'm in the midst of writing it right now. So the book will be out in the fall, maybe late fall, depending on whether we get out of this pandemic and there's an opportunity to do something aside from work and make food all day. We'll see how that goes. Helma May, welcome. I haven't seen you here before. He told me this many, many times. I know you better than you know yourself. Yes, and it's a big red flag, isn't it? Don't ever let anybody say that to you and get away with it or believe it. Just, No, you don't know me better than I know myself. You might think you do, but you don't. Maria said, oh, no, you better. Oh, yes, hijackal mothers say that. Oh, yes, they do. They say things like, I brought you into this world, now I can take you out, right? I remember the day that my mother, who was a raving hijackal, the day that she wanted to hit me, and she grabbed me, I guess I was about 10, and she grabbed me by the arm, and then she started smacking me, but I kept walking in a circle. The frustration of this woman. She was almost blue in the face. She was so angry because all I had to do was keep walking and she couldn't hit me. But yes, she used to say things like, I know you better than you know. I know what's good for you. I know what you're thinking. All that kind of thing. No, you don't. You have no clue what's going on in my mind or heart or my body. You absolutely don't. Claire, hello. Awesome information. Please, can you do a video outlining the older sister hijackal? This has been a lifelong issue in my life, and I doubt that I'm alone in this. Yes, I definitely will do another one. There are things, I'm going to write that down right now. There are things about narcissistic in-laws and narcissistic parents. There are things about narcissistic siblings, but not as straightforward as what you're asking. So I have made a note, and I will put that in the mix, Claire. So thanks for suggesting that. Anybody else think that's a good idea? Anybody else have a sibling that is a hijackal? Ah, yes, your daughter says that. My daughter says that, yes. I don't usually put the comments on the screen because I don't know if you're willing to have your names on the screen. So I don't do that because they stay up on YouTube. You are welcome, woman clothed in the sun. Lovely image. Maria said, you've helped me so much, and I watch now closely their behavior when I'm in their presence. Good. I'm so glad to hear both those things. I'm glad you've been helped, but I'm glad that as a result, you're watching the behavior. Don't listen to their words nearly as much as you watch their behavior, right? Because their behavior is their belief. Their behavior is who they are. Their words are who they think that you would like them better if they were. But their behavior is their true belief demonstrated. So it's important to watch the behavior. Maria said, oh, wow, poor, no eye contact. Oh, yes. Particularly people who are lying to you won't make eye contact with you. They're afraid of being seen. So that's important. Maria says, the scapegoat phrase, you only bring problems to our family. I think the family already had problems. I just happened to be shining light on them. You're welcome, Maria. She says so much wisdom. Okay. Oh, Barefoot Baker. Hello. I've not seen you here before. My ex-fiance always told me I was not remembering details correctly. Oh, yeah, that's it. I must not be listening and paying attention. Constantly made me feel like I was losing my mind, which was the entire intention of gaslighting you, that you just don't remember things well. Poor dear. It's sad that you can't sort of keep with the program. You can't keep up, but don't worry, I'll take care of you as you fall apart. And then they go on and they tell other people that, she's having problems with her memory, but it's okay, I got this, don't come near. And they make themselves out to be the hero, and then we have more trauma bonding. Yes. So Barefoot Baker said, I started secretly recording tense conversations from then on. That's great. If you live in a country or a state where there is one-party consent to tape conversations, that's important because then it's admissible when you go to court. So that's important. Maria said, my mother and sister both put their happiness on my lap, both hijackals. Oh, sorry, Maria, you got the double whammy, 2 of them in the house all the time. That must have been really difficult. I'm an only child, so I got 2 hijackal parents, both fixated on me, triangulating through me. But I always wished there were a sibling or 2, but I sure never wished for a hijackal sibling as well. So I can certainly empathize with what you went through. Oh, yes, people like the idea of an older sister hijack a video, and a covert one at that. Okay, I got it. Laura, hello, Laura. Haven't seen you here before. Welcome. I have 3 and 2 brothers, and my mom and my son. Oh, wow, that's a lot. I am assuming that you say you have 3 people who gaslight you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Lara. Remember, too, if you have comments or questions on anything to do with toxic relationships, you're welcome to put them in there. And know that after you hit the send button, there's 20 seconds before I see it. So put them in as soon as you think about it, because if I come to the end of the comments and questions and I talk for another 20 seconds, then I will disappear. So you were too nice. Laura said she was too nice. So yeah, well, that's the natural way to be, is pleasant and nice and collaborative and interested. And then hijack will see that and they go, oh, live one here, I'll take advantage of them. So I know that that could be really, really difficult. And as you say, you were too nice, but they were counting on you being nice for sure. So that's difficult. So woman clothed in the sun says, sorry to be woo, but what about demonic influence? I have nothing to say about demonic influence. I'm very careful not to consider the word evil, because there is one form of hijackal that is like they get worse, as we look at different diagnoses in the real world of diagnosis. But I steer clear of the evil term, except for the level of what we call a diagnosable person with what's called the dark triad. And that means they're narcissistic, they're psychopathic, and they're Machiavellian. And that is a lethal combination. So I don't know. I don't have anything to say about demonic influence. Lily said, why are personalities disorders on the rise? Well, there's quite a bit of speculation as to why. Of course, people sometimes are having more children these days, so the chances of a hijackal parent producing a hijackal child means there's going to be more of them. Also, we went through a period of time where we felt children were raised in a way that made them very entitled. So if they actually learned that they could get away with things, I had somebody say to me the other day, I have a 3-year-old who really rules the roost. And I said, are you joking? Because 3-year-olds, they can be wayward. And she said, no, everybody does what she says. Maybe she was 4. And I said, why? Why are they doing what a child says? What are you teaching that child, that they have this right to be right? And she said, well, she's so cute and she's this and that. And I said, she's not going to be cute at 14 doing this. She really is not going to be cute. This is the moment to say, there are consequences for behaving that way. And it's so very important. So why they're on the rise, there are more models of it. We've just had a big model of it here in the United States, where people bought into it. Because people who are hijackals and they get into positions of power, they give people permission to express their dark sides. And then we see more and more of that coming out. A lot of hijackal behavior can be kind of kept under the radar, but when somebody that people appreciate or follow says, oh no, let it out, let your darkest and deepest, worst, nasty sides out, let the world know, I give you permission, then we're going to see a lot more of that behavior come to be in the open rather than underground. And, there's just so many factors that are occurring in our world that cause people to feel insecure. So there are many reasons why there are personality disorders on the rise. I don't know what the number 8 refers to, Laura, but there's an 8 there. Stella said, I had 4 hijackal girlfriends I had to walk away from because they were so jealous and had to be in control. One copied my clothes, my makeup, my shoes. Yeah, mean girls, nasty girls. Oh, Woman clothed in the sun said, "That's my father, the dark triad." I'm so sorry. So sorry. And someone else says, "Me too." Very, very difficult. Very difficult. And I hope you've had some help to unearth all the places that a person, a hijackal, a parent, put little tentacles around your soul and around your heart and around your self-esteem and your self-worth and all of that, because you need help to do that. And of course, you can always have me talk to you at beaclient.com, but make sure you get some help. Really, really important. So talking about gaslighting, I'm sure that you recognize some of it, but maybe some of it was new tonight. And I hope that that will help you to see those 10 underhanded ways it shows up in your relationship so that you can give it a name. And that name is gaslighting. I'm so glad that you chose to spend this time with me, and I'm glad that you interacted and asked your questions. Make sure you subscribe on the podcast or on the Facebook page, like the Facebook page. My page is my group, which is facebook.com/group/hijackals. And then you can become part. You have to answer 3 qualifying questions. But when you do that, you will then immediately receive notification, because the group does, of what the topic is every Monday night. So every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Once or twice I've missed, but every Monday night I plan to be here at 7 o'clock Pacific time. So sometime during the afternoon, you will get a notice if you've subscribed somewhere as to what the topic is tonight. And I am just delighted that you were here. And I implore you, as I did at the end of the podcast, be very good to yourself. Treat yourself really well, because you matter. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.